Three, two, one. What up, people? It's Maddie back for another Just for Fun. In honor of the Grand Prix this weekend and all the legacy that's been going around, I'm going to play one of my legacy brews. This is a Tendrils of Agony Storm deck. I call it Mono Black Storm. Let's talk about how a Storm deck can be just for fun. Well, it's turn 3 or 4 instead of 1 or 2, and it's incredibly easily disruptible. So it is what a lot of you would call a bad deck, but I think it is fun to play. It's an auto lose to burn, and you'll see why in a second. But against non-interactive decks, turn 3 or 4, I can just win, just combo off and win. Basically, like any other Storm deck, we make mana, we draw cards, we play a Storm card. That's how it's going to work. How do we do it? Okay, so there's a lot of fun synergies in this deck. Let's talk first about my favorite card in the game, which is called Evolving Wilds. This is Pauper Fetchland. I play a lot of Pauper. Some of you guys do. Shout out Art. And we're going to see some Pauper videos later on. But what does this card do? Well, like the fetch lands, it allows you to shuffle your library. It allows you to thin your deck. And it works really well with two other cards in this deck, one being Urborg. So when I have Urborg out, Evolving Wild becomes the Swamp, taps for mana. So we don't need to sack it. It can actually tap for mana the turn it comes into play. Also, Cabal Ritual wants cards in the graveyard. Threshold, which is the original Delve. What up, Threshold? Throwback Threshold. So that helps us count to 7 in order to get our Cabal Rituals in effect. This is definitely the best card in the deck, without a question. Allows you to go up on mana. The other mana-producing cards in the deck, old favorite, Dark Ritual. What up, Dark Ritual? And we've got Reign of Filth, which is just a filthy card. Love this card. Totally underplayed. There's got to be a way to break this. I know in Legacy, turns matter a lot, so playing lands kind of equals turns, but maybe there's something with Veteran Explorer or Exploration or some kind of card that lets us cheat on lands and then using this to generate a ridiculous amount of mana. In our deck, since we're aiming to go off turn 3 or 4, usually 4, this ends up just being another Dark Ritual. But that's fine. Nobody's hating on that card. Bubbling Muck, which is Black High Tide, which who knew there was Black High Tide, can be very exciting. They should reprint this in red in keeping with the new color pie kind of effects. This can be good. If I wish there was, I wish I could afford like Candelabra. Then I would build something involving this and that. But still can plus mana. Basically, that's the whole point. Doing a 2/2 split of those. So what else is in here? Basically, these are probably the worst cards in the deck. The eggs, the chromatics. Basically, we're playing those, in the first couple turns to get free card draw later on in our turn that we're going off. In the turn, if you've already played this is mana neutral, so it's like a 0 mana draw card. So in a Storm deck, when you're just trying to get a critical mass, that can be pretty helpful. What else do we have that draws cards? Well, we have 0 mana, draw a card. We have 2 mana, draw 2 cards, lose 2 life. And then we have 8 of these. 8, draw 4 cards at the low cost of losing half your life. I can't believe there's 8 of these. That's amazing. Now, you'll notice they're expensive a bit at 3 mana. I mean, not really 3 mana, draw 4, but, in the scheme of things, when you're trying to go off, it can be. But hopefully, the goal is to draw into more mana-producing cards. Oh, forgot one more of our rituals, which is called Lake of the Dead, which is a ridiculous card. Doesn't come into play tapped. You do have to sack a swamp, but you can sack a tapped swamp. So you can play, on turn 4 or turn 3, tap a swamp that you have out, play this as your land for the turn, tap it, and sack another swamp, and you're up plenty of mana on the deal. So, very good card in that regard in the turn we're going off. What else is in here? Well, the 2 tendrils for the win, and Beseech. Beseech is a freaking cool card in a mono black deck because basically this is black, 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 tutor for a card that costs 4 or less, pretty much, in this deck. It is kind of a nombo with Reign of Filth and Lake of the Dead, and that does come up at times, but I'd say about half the time with this, you're tutoring for another ritual to get your storm count higher. And tutoring for Cabal Ritual when you have Threshold is actually plus mana, which is kind of nice. And in a pinch, if you can't find your tendrils, this can be, if you have 7 mana, this and then tendrils for the win. Sideboard. Let's talk about sideboard. I have 4 Duresses sitting there because they were originally main deck instead of the eggs, and I found that sometimes I was just firing them off, and I don't want to be a solid interactive deck. I want to just YOLO and play it out, and if I kill myself, I kill myself, and if I don't, I win. And that's basically how this deck plays out. Most of the time with this deck, on turn 4, you're winning with 2 life or 1 life left, which is why this is pretty much an insta-lose to burn, because you're playing cards that deal 10 damage to you occasionally. I mean, you'll see we like to play the probes and sign in bloods before the contracts or bargains in order to have this have less of an effect. I mean, sometimes this is draw 4 cards, lose 10 life. Sometimes this is draw 4 cards, lose 1 life. So, big difference there in the power level of the card. So enough blabbering. We're going to play a couple games and, see how it goes just for fun. So who cares if we get creamed with this? We lose to Counterspell, we lose to Force of Will, we lose to Lightning Bolt, we lose to pretty much anything. But, hey, sometimes they don't got it, and that's Magic. So let's give it a shot.